Okay, so we've all heard of the tragedy of Julius Caesar, right? But take a look at that question there. Whose words are we actually reading? You might be surprised to find out that the answer opens up this whole hidden world, not just about Shakespeare, but about pretty much any classic book you've ever read.
I mean, come on. It's one of the most famous lines in all of literature. It's chilling. Even if you've never touched the play, you know that line. It's been echoing for over 400 years.
And here's where we get to the good stuff. Can we be 100% positive that the line we all know and love, and for that matter the entire play, is exactly word for word what Shakespeare himself wrote down? Well, the short answer is no. So let's get into why.
To really get it, we have to start with what scholars call the problem of the text. And this isn't just a Julius Caesar thing. Oh no, this is a challenge that changes how we see all of Shakespeare's plays.
Most of us, we think of a book as this final, concrete thing. But for Shakespeare, there's no single master copy that he signed off on. What we have instead are different printed versions, published years apart, and they often don't agree. The two main sources that editors have to work with are what you see here. On one side, you've got the quartos. You can kind of think of them as the cheap paperbacks of the day. And on the other, you've got the first folio, which was this big, fancy collection his friends put together after he died. The problem? The quarto version of a play can be wildly different from the folio version. And just to give you a sense of how big a deal this is, take Hamlet. There are three very different early versions of that play. And we're not talking about little spelling changes. We're talking whole scenes that are different, lines that are completely changed. Even a character's motivations can be different. So which one is the real Hamlet? That's the puzzle editors have been trying to solve for centuries.
And this brings us to a really crucial figure in all this, the editor. See, when you read Shakespeare, you are always reading it through the lens of an editor. And sometimes that lens can totally change the picture, often without you even realizing it.
All right, check this out. This is a super powerful speech from The Tempest. It's aimed at the monster Caliban. And in the original texts, the person saying these fiery words is the young hero Miranda. She is furious because Caliban had just tried to assault her.
But here's the crazy part. For centuries, if you picked up a copy of The Tempest, you probably wouldn't see Miranda saying this. Nope, you'd see the speech attributed to her dad, Prospero. An editor, somewhere along the way, just decided to give her powerful words to a man.
I mean, that's a shocking change, isn't it? It totally changes how we see Miranda's character. It takes away her voice, her fire, in this huge moment. So why on earth would an editor do that? It wasn't because they found some new, better manuscript.
The reason was just cultural taste. Yeah, editors in the 19th century basically decided that it was improper for a nice young lady to speak with so much anger. So they fixed what they thought was Shakespeare's mistake, and they never told the reader. This is the hidden influence of an editor, big time.
So, how we deal with this as modern readers? How can we trust what we're reading? Well, thankfully, modern scholars like the amazing people at the Folger Shakespeare Library have come up with a solution.
See, the goal today isn't to create one single perfect version of the play and hide all the messy history. It's the exact opposite. The goal is transparency. Modern editions want to show you the choices the editor made, so that you, the reader, can be part of the conversation. And this method is called transparent editing. The idea is pretty simple. Instead of quietly correcting the text, editors show their work. They pick a main source, say the first folio, to be their base text, and then they clearly mark any changes or additions they make. And this right here is your secret decoder ring for reading Shakespeare. It's so cool. If you see text in square brackets, it means that line was pulled in from another early version, like a quarto. If you see angle brackets, that's the editor adding a word they think got dropped by mistake. And these half brackets are for things an editor adds, like a stage direction. Suddenly, you can see everything.
Okay, so now that you have this new superpower, let's circle all the way back to Julius Caesar and see how this actually changes how we read the play.
So, just a quick refresher on the plot, right? It kicks off with a conspiracy, where Brutus gets talked into turning against his friend Caesar. That leads to the famous assassination. Afterwards, Mark Antony gives that incredible speech that whips the public into a frenzy, sparking a civil war that ends in, well, tragedy. The whole play is about politics, betrayal, and the power of interpretation.
This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of the play. The manipulator, Cassius, tells Brutus he will be his glass, his mirror, to show him a side of himself he doesn't even know is there.
Just think about that for a second. The play itself is about how we interpret reality for other people, which is exactly what a textual editor does.
And this theme is everywhere in the play. Caesar's wife, Calphurnia, has a nightmare and interprets it as a terrifying warning. But then one of the conspirators shows up and gives it a completely different spin, a flattering interpretation that makes the dream sound like a great omen. Caesar chooses to believe the second version, and it leads him straight to his death. The whole story hinges on these acts of interpretation.
So, what does this all add up to? Well, it means we have to start seeing the text itself not as some fixed, perfect object, but as a living, breathing work of art.
This is the big takeaway here. A Shakespeare play isn't some fossil trapped in amber. It's a living script. It's been shaped and reshaped by printers, actors, and editors for 400 years. And knowing that doesn't make Shakespeare any less brilliant. If anything, it makes the work even more dynamic and exciting to engage with.
And that leaves us with one last big thought. Once you know to look for the brackets, to ask these questions, you start to wonder, don't you? From great novels to sacred texts, how many of the works that have shaped our world have been quietly molded by these invisible hands? It really does change how you look at every single book on your shelf.